Hi, I'm going to talk about fair value and the cost model, which I talked about in class last week, but obviously some people aren't quite getting it. I've got a question on Blackboard at the moment, UTS Online, where somebody asked me the difference between the cost and the fair value model, and without reading it, it's from, doesn't matter who it's from, but let's try to get the basics across. In the cost model, you record assets at historical cost. You depreciate them or amortize them if they're intangibles, same thing. And so you've got some carrying amount. Now, we're still talking about cost model. You need to do an impairment test to work out whether the asset is economically damaged. If that's true, then you need to recognize an impairment loss. Debit impairment loss or impairment loss expense, credit accumulated impairment loss. After you do that, the asset has three components: the cost, the accumulated depreciation, and the accumulated impairment. Okay, and the net amount is the carrying amount. That has nothing to do with market price, it's simply an allocation of cost. Okay, so that was the impairment, the cost model. The alternative is the revaluation model. So with the revaluation model, you start by doing the same thing. You buy an asset, you record accumulated depreciation, but if you're doing the revaluation model, you are making a commitment to keep the carrying amount, the difference between cost and accumulated depreciation, the carrying amount. Bad choice of finger. You're making a commitment that the carrying amount will be not too different from fair value. So you compare that carrying amount to fair value, and if the value is higher or lower, you do a revaluation, up or down, according to the rules I showed you in the lecture. Now, after you do a revaluation, whether it's up or down, in principle, you also need to do an impairment test. In practice, that would not matter most of the time. Look at how fair value is defined. Look at how recoverable amount is defined. What you'll find is that recoverable amount will only be smaller than fair value in very rare circumstances, where there are significant costs to sell the asset. If those aren't significant, impairment will not make a difference for revalued assets. So to summarize, cost model. You record it, you depreciate it, and you perhaps record impairment losses, and sometimes those impairment losses may go away. That's the cost model. Revaluation model. You record the asset, you depreciate it, you might revalue it up or down, and in theory you could also impairment test it, but most of the time that won't make a difference. So what's the difference between the two models? In the cost model, you end up carrying the asset at cost less damage or use. So you're not trying to come up with value. You're just saying the asset is the bit that hasn't become an expense yet. For the fair value model, yes, you start doing that, but you're trying to keep the asset at close to fair value, which is sort of market price, but fair value. Remember, fair value is market price if you can see it. If you can't see market price, then fair value is what market price would be if you could see it. Does that make sense? Let me know. The discussion group in which that question was is the forum for topic 3 to 5, assets. So if this doesn't make sense, you want to ask further questions, please go into forum 3 to 5, assets, under ASR, and ask some more. Okay, bye.